is, of course, being here with you guys. We wanted to use this opportunity to tell the public about Statistics Weeks and also to invite them to participate in the various events that we have planned for the week. So,
So what are some of the other highlights?
well, one of the key things of this week is a give back to the public, an information give back to the public. As you may be aware, we would have conducted a population and housing census over the period 2022 to 2023. It's a very long, engaged process where we go to every single household in St. Kitts and Nevis. And we would have asked a series of questions in an effort not just to get a count of the population, but to get a vivid and accurate description of the population's characteristics, age, sex, composition, to name a few, and also the conditions under which they live. When we did that exercise, and honestly, what is common when we do such census and survey type exercises, the respondents, the persons in these households, they always indicate, well, you always ask these questions, these long, yes, I see your face, these long surveys that can run anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours,
And
depending on
people don't
what.
really like answering questions.
Yes, so one of the things we committed to doing this time around was coming back to the public and saying, we came to you, we asked you for your information, and we promised that we're going to give you back that information in a usable form for you.
Okay, so you're bringing the information to the
We're
public.
bringing it back to the public.
Okay.
Yes. And we're doing it through two main initiatives. One, town hall style community engagements. We are going to be going into two main venues in the first instance, one being the old girls' schools right here at Victoria Road. That is tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And we're inviting everyone to be present and to come and receive that information. We of course, explain the process in detail, what we did, and we give a broad spectrum of the results that we would have gotten from that engagement. We want to do a similar thing next week, hopefully, to be confirmed in St. Paul's, again, inviting the persons living in the area to come and receive that information. We are also going into schools and we're educating the students who are engaged in population study type subjects, geography, social studies, to name a few. We're going to educate them as to what is a population and housing census, what is its value to the country, how it is useful to them in school. And we're also going to expand a bit more into demographic studies, explaining to them things such about births and deaths and how that affects the population. Because, there are key factors that cause a change in the population. And we want to educate the children at an early point as to what these factors are and how they interact with each other. So that's another big thing that we will be doing. In addition to all of this, you also want to improve your staff. You want to improve yourselves as a department. So we also have planned a kind of development session where we expose the staff to being a more professional entity and being a more resourceful and initiative-driven unit so that we can better serve the public and report on the realities of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Fantastic. And this is happening when?
That is happening, well, over the course of the week and next week, Monday as well. That's outside of the scope of the week, but that's the date and time that we were able to get. So that will take place on Monday.
Okay. So that's important because people need to train their staff.
That is
You
true.
need to ensure that your staff is the best, is made up of the best individuals that can be found. Okay, so that would culminate the week? Because it's outside of the week.
Well, it would not culminate the week. It extends the week because
Oh.
the reality is you can't do everything in the 1 week. that we have
Exactly,
planned. But
exactly.
we wanted, of course, to use this week to do certain things because not only are we locally celebrating Statistics Week, the region CARICOM, the countries in CARICOM celebrate what we call CARICOM Statistics Day, which is on the 15th of October. And most statistics departments build out the week to engage the
Around that
public.
day.
Yes, and around that day. So we want to do some activities during this week, but of course, the advocacy would extend beyond this week. And of course, one of the things we are trying our very best to do is become a more public-facing entity. We constantly collect data, and we are trying our best to ensure that in future, in the same manner that we come to you, whether it's via census or survey, or we go to other units, departments to collect administrative data, with the same level of enthusiasm and accountability.
You're going to bring the data to the
Bringing it back
public.
to the-
I think that would help a lot in terms of the work that you do, because people sometimes are a little bit suspicious when they see people coming to their homes and asking, like, well, how many people live there? Well, you understand,
Yes,
people
yes,
get
yes.
concerned. But if they can see that you are collecting the data, you're using this data for the public,
Yes.
you're educating them that this is what that this information goes into, like the planning for schools,
Yes, that is true.
the planning for housing, and
Jamie,
all of that.
I find you sounding like you should come on and work with the Department of Statistics.
No, I'll pass. I'll pass on that one, right? But if you educate the public, people would have the information, and they won't be as distrusting as they have been in the past.
That is true. That is true.
I have heard people say, listen, when they come by my place, I tell them, I ain't gonna have time for that. Right? And I would imagine that you've
Yes.
experienced that yourself.
We did experience that, and in fact, throughout the entire process of training the persons to go into the field, and especially while we were in the field, we had to reinforce certain realities. One, the information is totally confidential. Any information we collect.
And you
we
see that
cannot-
word? Confidential? People don't even trust that.
Oh, trust me. I can tell you, during the training exercise, one of the highlighted presentations was on confidentiality and the consequences of breaching that confidentiality. And in fact, for any sort of exercise undertaken by the department, and for any information collected by the department at an individual level, any and everybody involved in the process is bound by confidentiality to the point that they can face up to 2 years in prison.
You hear
It is
that, guys?
serious.
2 years in
Yeah.
prison.
So
So you have that, you can arm yourself with that
Yes.
information, because if so-and-so comes to my house and then I hear the information outside, I know where to make the
well,
complaint,
yes, definitely make the
right?
complaint, and we hold that in.
There is some recourse, so you
Yes.
know that you don't have to worry. Because, I mean, sometimes I wonder what they feel like the people going to say about them, right? But you don't have to worry, because you do have some recourse and you can make a complaint somewhere.
That is true. And additional to that, we are also mandated to only report information in an aggregated format. So we can never report information in a manner that can be traced back to you. So if I'm reporting on the census per se, I can say that there were 2 female radio personnel at Freedom. I can't do that. I can say in St. Kitts and Nevis, the number of persons in that industry. And once you begin to break it down, and it shows smaller numbers, that if you combine different characteristics to identify somebody, it stops. You can
Okay.
never analyze to that level so that any person can be identified with it directly or indirectly through the information that we provide. So we take that very seriously, and that is one of the main things we do want to ensure is part of not only the presentations we are going to do, that knowledge, also the development and training that we are going to do going forward, including any new personnel that come on staff. Because you must enter this sphere knowing that there are consequences to bear
Definitely.
should you fail to adhere to the protocol.
Definitely. So thank you for coming and sharing with us. The time has sped by very
Wow,
quickly.
that was quick.
But I wish you the best on your endeavors for this week. Anything special planned for the 15th?
The 15th is going to be Oni again, sadly not here. And we are going to also be publishing some information. And in fact, I forgot to mention, though, that we created for the first time ever a newsletter
Okay.
coming out of the Department of Statistics that was launched at the start of the week, and is going to be disseminated and distributed to media houses, social media faces, etc., to make sure people get an idea, an overall view of what the department is, what we do, and some of the outputs of the department. So if I have not sent it to you yet, I'm going to
Yeah,
make sure
just
that you
send
guys
it
get
to me and we'll make sure that we post it on our social media platforms. We'll share it in the
Awesome,
news.
awesome.
Everybody will get the information,
So-
trust me.
I can say as of today, I can count on Freedom FM and Jamie as an advocate for statistics.
Definitely.
Yes,
definitely.
thank you very much.
So thank you so much for coming, and we wish you all the best in your endeavors this week and beyond, and we look forward to hearing more from the Department of Statistics.
Thank you very much, Jamie. It was a pleasure being here.
Coming up next on Freedom FM, we have Issues hosted by Mr. Peter Adrian today.
Now loans, cash at the speed of life, so fast you won't believe it. Now loans, cash at the speed of life, right now, right now. If you need cash in a flash with now, no need to fuss, leave it to us. When you need cash in a flash, no need to fuss, leave it to us. Hear me now. Now loans, cash at the speed of life, so fast you won't believe it. Now loans, cash at the speed of life, right now, right now. Approved in a day, yeah, yeah. Some away, yeah. Approved in a day, oh, yeah, you know it's coming.
When life throws surprises your way, now's here to help. Whether it's for an urgent bill payment, home improvements, or unexpected health expenses, or even that last-minute holiday trip. With Now, you get cash in a flash, approved in just 24 hours.
Approved in a day, yeah, yeah. Some money on the way, yeah, yeah. Approved in a day, oh, yeah, you know it's coming. Now loans, cash at the speed of life, so fast you won't believe it. Now loans, cash at the speed of life, right now, right now.
A loan product powered by National Bank.
For life's finest moments, celebrate them with Skoal Premium Lager. Pure malt, pure class, pure perfection. Skoal, class and perfection in a bottle.
Reliable, dependable, Delta.
If you live here in St. Kitts and your tank on E, there's only one place that you should be. Maybe driving in Nevis and you need some fuel. Go straight to Delta. Don't be a fool. Get your cooking gas fast. All petroleum needs ULSD. Everyone in the region is shouting, Go Delta. Premium gasoline in a fully stocked C-store. So there's only one place you should be. Delta Petroleum, baby.
Back to school shouldn't meet you unprepared. St. Kitts Credit Union's Back to School loan helps you borrow up to $10,000 with flexible repayment plans, fast approval, supportive terms, invest in your child's future with confidence. Because every child deserves a strong start. Start today at www.skccu.com or call 465-2272. SKCU, invested in their future with you.
Hey, Webmaster here. I stay connected to Freedom with the Freedom SKN app. Simply search for the Freedom app in the Android's Play Store or the Apple's App Store and download it. Enjoy world-class radio at its best, anytime, anywhere. Become a Freedom apper today.
Back to school shouldn't meet you unprepared. St. Kitts Credit Union's Back to School loan helps you borrow up to $10,000 with flexible repayment plans, fast approval, supportive terms, invest in your child's future with confidence. Because every child deserves a strong start. Start today at www.skccu.com or call 465-2272. SKCU, invested in their future with you.
Now loans, cash at the speed of life, so fast you won't believe it. Now loans, cash at the speed of life, right now, right now. If you need cash in a flash with now, no need to fuss, leave it to us. When you need cash in a flash, no need to fuss, leave it to us. Hear me now. Now loans, cash at the speed of life, so fast you won't believe it. Now loans, cash at the speed of life, right now, right now. Approved in a day, yeah, yeah. Some money on the way, yeah, yeah. Approved in a day, oh, yeah, you know it's coming.
When life throws surprises your way, now's here to help. Whether it's for an urgent bill payment, home improvements, or unexpected health expenses, or even that last-minute holiday trip. With Now, you get cash in a flash. Approved in just 24 hours.
Approved in a day, yeah, yeah. Some money on the way, yeah, yeah. Approved in a day, oh, yeah, you know it's coming. Now loans, cash at the speed of light, so fast you won't believe it. Now loans, cash at the speed of light, right now, right now.
A loan product powered by National Bank.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to all my listeners. Oh, I missed you last Monday. I missed you. Oh, I missed you. I'm glad that we are back. And let me tell you that at 1:46 p.m. in the afternoon in St. Kitts and Nevis, I want to let you know that this is a blessed place. And let me tell you why I say it's a blessed place. Not only that today is a beautiful day, the typical Caribbean day. Of course, it's warm over there, but I have told you about the uniqueness of St. Kitts. We have the two breezes coming together, one from the Atlantic, one from the Caribbean Sea. But I tell you why it's blessed. I think it's Jerry. Jerry didn't do much harm to us. Jerry brought water. We needed a lot of water, and people who are farming like me, we are very happy, and a lot of water. The wave or the tides were high in some points, so there are little places where the area is below sea level. Then we had the water coming across, particularly on the Bay Road. But generally, then we had a few some wind, but generally we are always spared. I think I have said it before. I think St. Kitts is blessed. Of course, the rest of the Caribbean is blessed. But every time that something destructive seems to be heading our way, oh, the Christian God comes in and say, you got to move away from this baby. That is St. Kitts and Nevis. You are listening to Freedom FM 106.5. We boast that we are world-class radio at its best, and our listeners tell us that. This is Issues with your host, Coach Adrian. And I've always said, and I mean it deep down in my heart, it is great to have you on my show. Without you, we don't have a show. And I thank the many who meet me and tell me that they actually schedule their programs or their activities so that they can listen. And those who encourage me, the many people who give me data, the many people who send data to my WhatsApp, to email. And remember, my WhatsApp is 6689752. And the many people who give me encouragement and the many people who take discussion with me, I learn so much from them. Now, usually before we begin, I normally ask you to allow me to reach out before we introduce the topic. In fact, we are continuing from where we stopped in September, on September 29th. Let me big up, I hope I pronounce it well, Jazara Clarkson from the Cricket West Indies Women's Academy for landing a full-time one-year academy contract. That is great with Cricket West Indies. And of course, this started on October 1st. This is beautiful. This is magnificent. Bravo, congratulations, as we say in French, mademoiselle. This is a major breakthrough for St. Kitts cricket, for St. Kitts women cricket, and for St. Kitts professional sports. In fact, I want to say congratulations to the Ministry of Sports. I know those guys, they work very hard and they must have contributed significantly to her achievement. Congratulations to the St. Kitts Cricket Association, despite the ingoing fight that they have, and I hope they resolve this thing. And my wish is that the breakthrough will allow you, Jazara, to develop and to grow, and of course later on represent West Indies cricket at the senior level. Hey, congratulations. Go for it, girl. Be disciplined. Give yourself to your task and develop confidence. And whatever that give you confidence, if it is your God, stick to your God so that you can become the professional that you are expected to be by the nation. Now, on the same issue, I fought the director of Cricket West Indies, Bascom head coach and selector, Darren Sammy, and the other decision makers. I thought they are practically too hard on Michael Louis. Yes, I said that, and I think, given that the pool of West Indies cricketers, particularly Test cricketers, is so thin. Now, a young, talented cricketer like Mikel, you can't afford not to groom him and not to, nurture him. In fact, every player have, of course, just like anybody who goes to a job, they have the gestation period, and therefore they have to grow. And in sports, there are periods that you go to periods of great form and other times period of no form. So that they must not be ignored. And that includes people like Hodge and people like Brathwaite, people who have shown that they have, if you want, the patience, the tolerance, the stick-to-itness to play Test cricket. I do not understand how Mikel could have been omitted on the tours to Nepal, to India and New Zealand. Now, who really can convince me that Carl Myers is a better investment in CWI cricket development than Mikel Louis? I don't know. What would be your argument? I don't know what's the argument. Anyway, certainly when I meet Darren, I am not too chummy with Bascom, but when I meet Darren, I'm going to perhaps ask him about that. Okay, let's go. Let us go. When we stopped on the 29th of September, we warned that the dynamics of the global economic relation, that is global economic relation, the dynamics of international trade relation, and the dynamics of international politics are rapidly changing. That is what we said. That was our first part discussion on the series, The New Global Economy. And we said that they are bringing with it painful experiences for dependent and open economies and societies like St. Kitts and Nevis. We noted that the price of all things are going up. Food prices are going up every week. And you know that if you go to the supermarket, people cannot travel to the U.S. as they used to. Kittitians living in the U.S. illegally or undocumented, when they are caught, whether through a raid or at the red light or at the stoplights, will be sent back to St. Kitts and Nevis, or if they are unfortunate, they will be sent to a third country in Central South America or in Africa. More than that, not only are you going to see that the remittances, that is the monies that you get or what you get in cash or in kind from America, not only will you see that decline, because of the development that is taking place. In fact, inflation is beginning to bite in America. In fact, I had some calls from friends in Michigan and other places, and they explained to me what is happening. And one of them told me that a dozen egg is about $3.49. That's what he said, US. But apart from that, people who are sending money out of America, starting January 26, if those monies are sent through an international transfer like Western Union, these remittances will be subject to a 1% US tax. That has become law in America. Now, for the benefit of the younger generation, the younger people, the people who are in the people who are 10, 15, the 20, 30-year-old, let me just explain to you, if you are listening, why the shift in U.S. policy is so shocking to us in the Caribbean, and why it is developing, or it is going to unleash a painful experience. Now, this is the socio-political environment in which we grew up. Now, I would like you to listen if you're a young person. Taught directly or indirectly by friends and family, and influenced by the cinema, the television, magazines, newspapers, radio. We grew up believing that the United States was the world's greatest benefactor, a beacon of freedom, prosperity, and a place of prosperity and boundless opportunity. The grass is always green there, so that when their things are hard, you will look to the Americans. It became the dream destination for thousands of Caribbean persons or migrants or people seeking to escape economic hardship. Because those of you all who are growing now, you don't know economic hardship. If you had to live in the 1970s and 80s to understand economic hardship, and I'm talking about real hardship. There was oil crisis, but more than that, food crisis. Food, flour and rice. You even had difficulty getting that. Now, in that environment, friendship with America meant power for many Caribbean governments. Note that very well. Friendship with United States of America meant power for many Caribbean governments. The Caribbean and many vulnerable countries, they became aid. I said aid, A-I-D, not HIV virus. Aid dependent because America was that great giver. In time of natural disasters, we call on America. Oftentimes, we exaggerated the extent of the damage caused by the hurricane or the earthquake. Sometimes we say it is apocalyptic so that they can listen. And America comes and shows sympathy. For many governments, when their power base was threatened, political leaders labeled the opposition. All they had to do was to label the opposition communists or label the opposition allies of Cuba. And America, of course, having hated Cuba since 1959, after the 59 revolution, then America, they call on America and they get all the support that they want. because this was the time of the Cold War, and America was determined that Russian and Cuban influence in the Caribbean would not make. When our people needed welfare, we called on America. When governments needed soft and hard infrastructure or finance or grants, they call on America. And I know that. I mean, many of us, we got scholarship. We went to school either from scholarship from Europe or scholarship from Canada or scholarship from the US. And I was one of them. I was very fortunate. I went to 7 years university. I never pay a cent. All I had to do was to perform, and I got scholarship after scholarship, because those were the days. The reality, however, is since April 2, 2025, the U.S. has cut the umbilical cord. For the young people who have listened to me, all what that I have described, all the way of life, all the relationship between the Caribbean and the U.S., that cord that connected them like a child to the mother, that was cut on the 2nd of April, which was called by the new administration Liberation Day. But some Caribbean political leaders still think they can bury their heads in the sand and pretend that that umbilical cord is not being cut or has not been cut, or to pretend that what is happening is not happening, so they ignore it. But the days of lamentation and what I call economic hardship are already upon us. Government leaders of the Eastern Caribbean, even if they are behaving as if it is business as usual, like I said last time, they are deliberately giving the voters or the people a false sense of security because, as I said last time, they do not have vision, they don't dream dreams, because all they can see is the next election. So this leads me, therefore, to issues number one. Let's discuss issues number one. Issues number one, the new U.S. administration is decoupling America from the rest of the world. The dictionary says to decouple means to separate, to disconnect, to end the relationship or to end the interdependence. A word that is close to that is to divorce. So the United States is divorcing itself. It is ending its interdependence, or it is disconnecting itself from the rest of the organizations, associations, and alliances, and whatever, and that America championed in the world before, particularly after World War II. Here is the evidence. One, the U.S. is not a member of the International Court of Justice. Get that clear. Get that very clear. The United States is not a member of the International Court of Justice. Two, the U.S. has often threatened to leave the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. This was formed after the World War II. That is to maintain support and security for the countries on both sides of the Atlantic. 3. On April 2, the global tariff sweep signals that Americans have effectively withdrawn from the World Trade Organization, the famous WTO. which was mandated to liberalize flows in the whole world. Liberalize the flow of capital, the flow of labor, and the flow of goods and services. I remember at the central bank, we spent years on that. I attended all kind of meetings, and just to make sure that the trade liberalization and the financial liberalization was on target. So basically, the future of WTO has been basically lackluster. And what killed it? The very big countries, the so-called world powers, the great imperial countries. They ask us in the Caribbean, in Africa, and in the Pacific, ACP countries, they ask us to liberalize, to free up agriculture. That local farms, local agriculture must not be subsidized, but allow it to compete on the market, on the free market. We had no choice. They force us to do it because we are satellite countries. We don't make the rules. We just follow the rules. Later on, we'll talk about it. So that's what happened to bananas. But in their country, on both sides of the Atlantic, they refuse to stop subsidizing agriculture. They ask you to subsidize agriculture. So when you produce, you are producing high-cost goods. When it comes, it cannot compete with this because not only that those that they do is highly mechanized and it is large-scale, benefiting from economies of scale. Not only that, but they are highly subsidized by government. So basically, the playing field is set against African, Pacific, and Caribbean countries. It's set against us. We don't set the rules. We obey the rules. They say Y2K and you run. They say know your customers and you run. We don't have a choice. If not, they freeze your account. So basically, the U.S. have virtually made nonsense of WTO. Number 4, the U.S. has virtually withdrawn from the Paris Climate Agreement. You know that. Because they're not going to accept all this stuff and all this talk about carbon, whatever emission. They're not going to accept all this stuff about coals and so on because the coal miners in America is powerful and powerful votes to get you into parliament. The U.S. have withdrawn process from WTO that was initiated on, that is World Health Organization, on January 2025, and it will effectively withdraw from the World Health Organization. When I say withdraw, in most cases we're talking about financing because they are the major financiers. Effectively on January 2026. And this is the one that I want to emphasize in this program today. The U.S. foreign aid freeze and dissolution of USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, that started on the 25th of January 2025. Now, the delinking with USAID and World Health Organization will be very painful for the Caribbean. Let me emphasize that again. If all the things that I said before and all the developments that show that America is decoupling and whatever, if that is going to be painful, this one, that is the drying up of funds and from the United States Agency for International Development and for World Health Organization, will be very painful for the Caribbean. In fact, USAID was established in 1961 by then President J.F. Kennedy, and agencies and projects established across the world. And they delivered life-saving medicines, food, clean water, etc. for 64 years. And that is, of course, until President Donald Trump gave notice of withdrawal on January 2025. USAID supported programs and activities in 177 countries and 29 regions. USAID saved starving farmers all over the world. USAID funded education systems and saved millions of lives from HIV/AIDS. And yet, there are more bad news, like I have said, with respect to the U.S. leaving the World Health Organization on January 2, 2026. They will leave the World Health Organization, as I said previously. Now, that is very important. It's very significant for both of those leaving the USAID and WHO. For WHO alone, the U.S. provided a minimum of $400 million annually. They funded $100 million annually. And that is, of course, to combat infectious diseases, to finance vaccination programs, and to strengthen healthcare systems all over the world. Now, the Caribbean, of course, will lose access to soft financing for essential health resources and technical support. And yet the Caribbean is going to lose that at a time when heart disease, stroke, cancer, and diabetes are the leading causes of death. And I saw a report by the chief medical officer in St. Kitts, and it says the very same thing. 1 in 4 adults in the Caribbean has mental condition. And in some cases, people have mental condition, but the countries do not have the requisite institution to treat them. So like we say in St. Lucia, there are more mad people out than mad people who have been taken care of. So there are more mad people outside than those inside. And the thing is, the people who are mad always say they are not mad. They are not mad. In fact, they would tell you clearly, I'm not mad. But I have met people who actually tell me that they are mad. So I don't know. That is an exception. Obesity is becoming the norm. And food inflation in the Caribbean is making matters worse. But who will be the main sufferers in all those things I'm talking about here? The elderlies, those who are on low-income fixed pensions, because there are some people who are on pension, but the pension is very low. Nowadays, you can go to a supermarket with $100 or $200. It's a joke you're making. By the time you reach the cashier, you have to come more than that. Or if you want, you can go with the $100 or $200, but the things that it will buy you are the same kinds of foods that are causing the diabetes and the high blood pressure, etc. Because the good foods are very expensive in the supermarket. So the people who are poor, and there is an increasing number of people who are poor. Poor in the sense that as inflation goes up, their purchasing power, they are able to buy less and less of the good foods. In fact, I have met people who said to me, they even have to postpone going to their doctor. They postpone going to the doctor, and some of them, even some people who are professionals, they have to go to health centers and then or go to JN France. So many people cannot face the supermarket on a weekly basis to buy the things or the foods that are health inducing. And according to the report, the countries that are going to be affected most by the America's drying up funds on U.S. aid and WHO, Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Barbados, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana. Guyana is becoming a rich country now. Jamaica, St. Lucia, where I come from, St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Kitts and Nevis, however, does not depend as much on WHO and particularly U.S. aid as the rest of them. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Suriname, and Trinidad. Now, these are the significant beneficiaries in the Caribbean. Now, did you know that the birth pains of the things I have said there, that is the drying up of funds for U.S. aid and WHO, have already started in the Caribbean? And this is what I found. The Jamaica Information Service of 8th February 2025, they reported, and I read, on February 8, 2025, Prime Minister Holness of Jamaica said he cannot find the 54 million US annually to fund the existing U.S. aid programs in Jamaica. And it continued because he said the government does not have the cash flow. End of quote. Let me just tell you again, if you think it is joke that we are talking because some people are doing well and they can eat what they want and they can drive what they want and they can move what they want, as if there is no other people who are less endowed than them around. This is, I'm reading it from Jamaica again. And the thing is, I have always loved Dr. Holness because he's one of those upfront in the Caribbean. Holness, Ralph Gonzague, Mayor Motley, a few of those who are up front. And notice the names that I have mentioned. Those are intelligent people, bright people, particularly Miss Motley. And this is what he said. He's not there to cover up and to say things just for political. In fact, I said to somebody before the election took place last month or whatever, I told him he would win because I had read the IMF program reports, and Jamaica was doing very well. The empirics were showing very well. In fact, the country was growing well, and he was reducing poverty significantly. But he is saying a lot of these programs, the programs for the poor people, the programs for health, for this, for that, and the other that I mentioned. He said those are funded by U.S. aid in the tune of 54 million US a year. And he's saying Jamaica does not have the cash flow to deal with that. So here you are. Now, here's a worst case forecast on the human cost, the likely human cost of America delinking itself from the U.S. aid and from World Health Organization. A special study was done, and I managed to get that study, and the study estimates that U.S. aid and the WHO programs have saved over 9 million lives between 2005 and 2025. The next one. It says, with the drying up of U.S. funding, and I'm quoting that, the study projects that 14 million additional deaths will take place by 2030, including 4.5 million deaths among children below the ages of 5. The study concludes, and that is the word I want to quote, it concludes, stopping funding for U.S. aid and WHO will kill millions of people and condemn hundreds of millions to dehumanizing poverty, end of quote. Stopping funding for US aid and WHO will kill millions of people and condemn hundreds of millions to dehumanizing poverty, end of quote. Now, the issue is, okay, we see the servant leadership. That's what they call it in spiritual things. I think Christian used that term. That is the model taught by Jesus Christ. Servant leadership. We see the servant leadership of Dr. Holness in Jamaica. He comes straight with his people, straight with them, and tell them. In fact, I read another article where he said, this is sending panic in many communities in Jamaica. And he's not ashamed to say it. He said it. And he said it to the world. So how will the government of the Eastern Caribbean, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, Dominica, Antigua, St. Kitts, how will they cope? How will the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, cope when those projects that are funded by America, now WHO can be funded direct by USAID or WHO if St. Kitts or any of the countries benefit from Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, they also benefit by funding from WHO. So therefore, in a sense, even if you are benefiting from a PAHO program, you may very well be funded by the United States. So the issue is, how will the government cope or to find that excess fund to maintain those projects? Although I said that the projects that the USAID projects are not in proliferation, are not widespread, as in the case of Jamaica in St. Kitts. Is St. Kitts and Nevis in a better fiscal position than Jamaica? Is that what we are saying? Is Dr. Drew's government in a better cash flow position than Dr. Holness's government in Jamaica? Because they, all of them, those in St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, and Barbados, because they did not come in the open and give their lamentation, are they better off than them? Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause for advertisement. And when we return, I'm going to open the line. And then after I open the line, I am going to go into the empirics, the arithmetic, and look at the case of the fiscal case of St. Kitts, and to see if St. Kitts is likely, if it has or if it likely has the space to take over the funding of those projects. You are listening to Freedom FM 106.5. You are listening to Issues with Coach Adrian. Today we are talking about our second part of our series, the new global economy. But the issue that we are dealing with today is the issue of the United States decoupling itself from the rest of the world. But we are emphasizing the withdrawal from the USAID and the World Health Organization and the likely impact for that, negative impact for the Caribbean. Let's pause for advertisement.
Now loans, cash at the speed of light, so fast you won't believe it. Now loans, cash at the speed of light, right now, right now. If you need cash in a flash with now, no need to fuss, leave it to us. When you need cash in a flash, no need to fuss, leave it to us. Hear me now. Now loans, cash at the speed of light, so fast you won't believe it. Now loans, cash at the speed of light, right now, right now. Approved in a day, yeah, yeah. Some money on the way, yeah, yeah. Approved in a day, oh, yeah, you know it's coming.
When life throws surprises your way, now's here to help. Whether it's for an urgent bill payment, home improvements, or unexpected health expenses, or even that last-minute holiday trip. With Now, you get cash in a flash, approved in just 24 hours.
Approved in a day, yeah, yeah. Some money on the way, yeah, yeah. Approved in a day, oh, yeah, you know it's coming. Now, loans, cash at the speed of light, so fast you won't believe it. Now, loans, cash at the speed of light, right now, right now.
A loan product powered by National Bank.
For life's finest moments, celebrate them with Skoal Premium Lager. Pure malt, pure class, pure perfection. Skoal, class and perfection in a bottle.
Reliable, dependable, Delta. If you live here in St. Kitts and your tank on E, there's only one place that you should be. Maybe driving in Nevis and you need some fuel. Go straight to Delta. Don't be a fool. Get your cooking gas fast. All petroleum needs ULSD. Everyone in the region is shouting, Go Delta. Premium gasoline in a fully stocked C-store. So there's only one place you should be. Delta Petroleum, baby.
Back to school shouldn't meet you unprepared. St. Kitts Credit Union's Back to School Loan helps you borrow up to $10,000 with flexible repayment plans, fast approval, supportive terms, invest in your child's future with confidence. Because every child deserves a strong start. Start today at www.skccu.com or call 465-2272. SKCU, invested in their future with you.
Hey, Webmaster here. I stay connected to Freedom with the Freedom SKN app. Simply search for the Freedom app in the Android's Play Store or the Apple's App Store and download it. Enjoy world-class radio at its best, anytime, anywhere. Become a Freedom apper today.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. You're listening to Freedom FM 106.5. You're listening to Issues with Coach Adrian. We are opening our phone line now. The number to call is 662-1065, 465-6474, or 465-4546. 662-1065, 465-6474, or 465-0546. We are discussing the decoupling America from all the international programs. In particular, we are emphasizing that it used to finance all over the world and in the Caribbean. We are emphasizing U.S. aid and World Health Organization and the implication that it has for the Caribbean. We read the lamentation of Jamaica. We also read about the estimate that it makes that there will be suffering, there will be increased poverty, and because all of those areas that are funded by these programs, areas of health, education, infectious disease, vaccination, areas to help poor farmers for education, health education systems, and so on. All these, the funds have dried up, and most of them are drying up in the new year. We saw that Jamaica said that they're not able to do it, they don't have the cash flow. We want to look at what is happening, what scope has the government of St. Kitts have to handle an issue like that when the projects come to an end. Now, there are 4 line items that I look at the fiscal account in the government. I just want to emphasize 2 of them, and they strongly suggest that the government has an increasingly serious cash flow problem. I get my data from the IMF report of 2024 and also from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank website. The first one the line item I want to look at is the movement of government revenue and the movement of government expenditure. The difference between that we normally refer to in the IMF report, the primary balance. The primary balance, of course, the difference of what is the flows that come in and the total flows that go out. And it either is a surplus or it is a deficit. In the case of St. Kitts in 2000, and I'm expressing that in millions, I'm not looking at percentage, in millions. In 2022, there was a deficit of 151 million. In 2023, there was a tremendous improvement. There was a deficit only of 48 million. But in 2024, see what is happening. The deficit ballooned to 293.9 million. So in essence, in 2024, the gap between what government is collecting and what government is spending, it widened by almost twice its size in 2022. So the deficit or the shortfall or the overspending was 294 million. Now this is very serious. This is extremely serious. In other words, if you have a business that is performing like that, basically the business is tending toward bankruptcy. Because you expect deficit to, in other words, stay within a certain range, or like we saw between 2022 and 23. This is good news. Now, not that it's a surplus, but you're talking about a movement from 151 deficit to 48. But in 2024, it ballooned to 294 million. Now, that's not even all the bad news. When you are making deficit, you would expect that, just like a house or a business, if you are making deficit, that is, more flows are going out than flows coming in, you would expect that you have one buffer. The buffer that you have is your savings. Your savings. All right. But here's the IMF. I'm quoting from the IMF report now. The IMF shows that government deposit at commercial banks as a percentage of GDP is diving at precipitous rate. That is not a joke. It is diving at precipitous rate. And here is it. In 2022, it was the stock of savings in the commercial bank belonging to government. Just like you have an account, Harry have an account, James have an account, the government have an account. Their savings was as high as 21% of GDP. Now, of course, if GDP is, if we classify GDP in dollar terms as 100%, as a dollar, it is saying therefore that, look, the savings command as much as 21 cents of that dollar. In 2023, according to the IMF report, the savings of the government was 20.4% of GDP. That is still great news. But see what happened now. Something very troubling is happening here. The numbers have beginning to frighten people. It's frightening me. Because remember, I said in 2024, the deficit ballooned from 48 million to 294 million. Now, see what happened to the savings. In 2024, whereas it was 20.4% of GDP in 2023, in 2024 it had gone down to 10.4%. In other words, not only is the government overspending, but it means, therefore, while the government is overspending, it is digging into, it's eating up what it has in savings. Of course, you don't have to go to school to understand what I'm saying. If that is happening to you as a person, if that is happening to you as a business, you basically know very soon your door's going to close. Unless, of course, because you can keep your doors open as a business as long as someone is prepared to finance your deficit for you. That is, you can go to a bank and tell the bank, oh, I have been with you for so many years and I have given you business and this and that and whatever. Look, man, give me an overdraft. Give me an overdraft. How much overdraft you want? Now, remember, overdraft is a loan. Give me an overdraft. Give me, man, give me $250,000. Or give me $500,000. And then every month, every week, every month, you pay your salaries out of overdraft. So your employees take the money and they go to the bank with it. They don't know where you're getting it, because the money that you are paying them is not coming out of operations, because you're supposed to be paying them out of profit. You're supposed to be doing that. And then you're supposed to be getting enough inflow to cover your outflow so that you have money to pay salaries, to pay your overhead, and to keep some for working capital. But you are now paying from an overdraft. Well, all right. Here, the government is using from the savings in a very drastic way, and that is not all. Then the IMF shows that the debt stock of the government also increased at the same time. Now, that is very concerning. Your deficit increase, you are overspending. Your savings are going down, you are eating it rapidly, but at the same time, you are building more debt. This is what the IMF shows. In 2022, the government, the debt to GDP is 67%. And now, normally, the international agencies use 60% threshold, although that's an arithmetic. But generally, they have accepted that and whatever. And they say if you are 60%, your debt stock is 60% of GDP or less, it means you are managing all right. It's kind of comfortable and whatever. Okay. In 2023, the debt to GDP had gone up to 76%. From 66% to 76%. And in 2024, it had gone down a little slight, but as high as 74.3%. So what are we saying here? What we are saying here is you have a triple problem, and one problem is exacerbating the other one. Government is overspending. The deficit is getting ballooned. 2, government at the same time is eating down whatever savings it has in the banking system. But yet, both of that cannot do the job. Governments are increasing their borrowing so that they can stay in operation and to take care of goods and services and other projects. That's what we are saying here. But when I saw that, I went back to the IMF report and lift through the report. I looked at 3 of the reports, but particularly 2023 and 2024. And I look at them, I say, but look, what is the cancer? What exactly, which line item is really having that crippling effect? Which one? What is causing that crippling effect? What is causing the government to bring down their savings like that? And what is causing at the same time overspending, like spending so much more money that they don't make? $294 million. Then I check payroll and related expenses. And I checked the IMF and I did my calculation. And it shows that my calculation from the 2024 IMF report, it shows that personal emolument and payment for goods and services. Now, hear what I say. Personal emolument, payroll, and payment for goods and services. That is how it was not broken down in the IMF. I would have loved to break it down, personal emolument by itself and related expenditure, but that was connected, that was grouped, classified with goods and services. Now, personal emolument and payment for goods and services were 84% of total revenue in 2022. 82% of total revenue in 2023. So what is it that we are saying? We are saying, therefore, in 2022, when government spend all their monthly spending on payments, that is salaries, payroll and related expenses, goods and services for the hospital, for schools, for ministries, etc., etc., government was left with only 16 cents on a dollar. That amounted to 84 cents on a dollar. On each dollar it received, it was left with only 16 cents to take care of the rest of the country. You understand? Now, you don't have to go to big school to understand what I'm saying. Eh? In 2023, when they did the same thing, that is take care of payroll and related and goods and services, they were only left with 18 cents on every dollar for operations. So basically, I checked deeper on the 2023 IMF report, and I found on page 6, it noted 3 developments, and I read. It says, tax revenue continue to fall due to a decline in income taxes. Public wages rose rapidly in 2021 despite a high wage bill relative to regional pairs. And it says finally, the government is running a deficit. End of quote. All of that is in the report. You can get the report and read for yourself, The IMF report is not for select people, It's not for me. It's not for government. Of course, the government is the one who is like TDC. Government is the business owner, TDC, and the other one who authorizes publication, etc. It is the external audit of the government. But it is open, it's online, it's there, and you read it for yourself. Now, one thing I know, of course, for many, the IMF report is going to have tremendous difficulty because in the language that it's written, and I've always argued that, even when I went to IMF school, I argued that with them. The language that it is written for people, professional technicians who understand the language. technicians who understand it. And for example, sometimes you look at a table and you may not be able to flesh out the information in the table because it is really not written. It is written for the professional. And I suppose that is one way I think the IMF can make the report more palatable, more friendly to the public. That is very, very important. Okay, now here is a bird's eye view of how much government payroll has been taken from tax revenue. That is, of course, as a percent of GDP. And I am quoting from the IMF report again. I looked at 2016, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. I am going to skip 2019 and 2020 because I'm treating them as abnormal. That is that's the virus years. So I'm looking at 2016, 2019, 221 and 222. So tax revenue as a percentage of GDP in 2016 was 18.4. In that very same year, government wages and salaries was 10.8. That's a difference of about 8 or 7.6. A percentage point. In 2021, tax revenue was 19% of GDP. Wages and salaries, 14.2. That's about 7. That's about 7. That's 8. That's about 8. That's about 4.8. 4.8 percentage points. So we see that is an increase over 2016. That's 2016, and that is the 2016 would be the Douglas era. The 2021 that would be Dr. Harris's era, and 2021, in a sense, you're not even too big on that because that is the year of recovery after the virus. So I'm not too hard on that. But 2022, let's look at 2022. 2022, tax revenue was 19.0, that is to GDP, and the wages and salaries was 14.3. Now this one is, that is considerably high relative to 2016. So I ignore 2019 and 2020 because of the virus years. And the 2021, I am not putting much emphasis on that because that is recovery period, and therefore in recovery period you expect an increase in expenditure, an increase in government, I suppose government employment, etc. That is government role during the virus as what we call in economics an employer of last resort. So that would be expected. But basically, there's a message we get there, though, from the data. We get a message here. I'm not so much very big on the 2021, the virus period, but there's a message there. There are 3 messages one can get from there. The Douglas government expanded public administration, and by public administration, we use that to mean all services that are on government payroll. Public administration, all services that are under government payroll. So the Douglas administration expanded that. We saw that by 10.8 of GDP. The Harris administration, of course, affected seriously by the virus of 2019 and 2020, kind of balloon it. And I don't know, I'm not very hard on that because that's recovery period and people must survive, people must eat. So we would expect that government expenditure in that area would go up. Now, government of the Dr. Drew's government in 2022 is actually what you see here relative to 2016, that is 10.8 wages of salaries to GDP as opposed to 14.3, is actually overstretching the balloon. Now, what exactly we are talking about there? What is the arithmetic that we are really talking? What is the arithmetic? There are an estimated population of 53,000 and a public administration, as I speak, of nearly 10,947. By now, maybe a little more. But that's a very safe number. Safe number. 53,000 people on government payroll, 10,947. Now, of course, as I said, public administration refers to all government services on government payroll. Now, the other government-owned or majority-controlled operations, most times we refer to them as public enterprises. For example, like Development Bank, National Caribbean Insurance, these are public enterprises. So, SKN is a company. So SKN is not treated like, SKN is treated as a company, even if it has one owner. And we'll have a separate discussion on that. So, government, therefore, has one person serving every 4 persons in the society. Do the arithmetic for yourself. A population of 53,000, public administration 10,947. Government has one person serving every 4 persons in society. But you still have to wait in long lines. Now, you still have to call back several times in some agencies. And when you call government services, in some of the cases, particularly if you call in government headquarters, you don't get anybody. Most times you don't get anybody. And more than that, in certain areas, your documents remain in the government offices for years. They are not delivered. But what? Government employ one person to every 4 persons living in the country. This is ridiculous. In other words, if the arithmetic was right, if the arithmetic was followed, in other words, if people were being employed because of their skill of what they are doing, man, this would be perhaps one of the most efficient country in the world. Because if you go to Jamaica, and I did my homework, if you go to Trinidad, if you go to Guyana, if you go to any of these Caribbean countries, you will never get such a narrow ratio. One person serving 4 persons in society. But the documents and the things that you send there, you cannot get them in a year, particular inland revenue. I know what I'm talking about. People talk to me. I speak to people. People speak to me. I do homework. Yes. So the arithmetic shows, therefore, that government employs 40.5% of the working population. Now that is very significant because later on we'll discuss that. This has a serious implication for elections because all the people who are in the working population are people who can vote. So in a sense, in an arithmetic sense, if people were loyal to the government is not getting out of power. But of course, one quickly must observe what we run in the Caribbean, except Guyana, is constituency politics. You must win a constituency. And how you win the constituency? You win the constituency by first past the post. You can win the constituency by 1. So even if government have access to 40%, 41% of the working population. That doesn't mean that all these people, in fact, all these people can vote for the government and the government still can lose the election. Why? It depends on the geographical spread of these people, how they are spread. For example, if a lot of those people are spread into one constituency that's already government dominant, say like St. Paul's, or say St. Paul's. Let's assume that if a large number of people were in St. Paul's, Labour can lose St. Paul's. They can't. They can't. You can put a drunk man to run for Labour in St. Paul's. They're going to win you. They're going to beat you like a child. So, but the mistake that is going to happen, the arithmetic is not going to work, because the way the arithmetic must work with constituency politics, these people we are talking about there have to be well spread. They have to be so spread around the constituencies so that one single vote is significant. So for every 100 persons working in St. Kitts Nevis as we speak now, 41 persons are employed by the government. For every 100 persons living in St. Kitts now, 41 persons are employed by the government. A government of what? Of a country of 68 square miles and 53,000 people. So, since Dr. Douglas, since Dr. Harris, and with Dr. Drew, it basically has been party in power. What did I say? Party in power. And I have brought a book that I want to introduce to you, if you wish to. It's a very good material. You like it? It's a book. I have it in front of me. It is called Party Politics in the West Indies by C.L.R. James. Party Politics in the Caribbean by C.L.R. James. And you should be able to get this on Amazon or any recognized bookshop. This was compulsory reading for us when we did political science at the University of the West Indies. In a nutshell, it teaches that a lot of what passes in the Caribbean for government, even if you go online and you stay in the sun and you make sure you elect, you cast your vote for the person that you love, when you do elect them, they don't run government. Government is the machinery that administers the state. But what they do, you have put a party in power who is going to run the country with their party supporters, whether they are skilled or not. Read this book, Party Politics in the West Indies by C.L.R. James. Let's take an advertisement, please.
Loans, cash at the speed of life, so fast you won't believe it. Now, loans, cash at the speed of life, right now, right now. If you need cash in a flash with now, no need to fuss, leave it to us. When you need cash in a flash, no need to fuss, leave it to us. Hear me now. Now, loans, cash at the speed of life, so fast you won't believe it. Now, loans, cash at the speed of life, right now, right now. Approved in a day, yeah, yeah. Some money on the way, yeah, yeah. Approved in a day, oh, yeah, you know it's coming.
When life throws surprises your way, now's here to help. Whether it's for an urgent bill payment, home improvements, or unexpected health expenses, or even that last-minute holiday trip. With Now, you get cash in a flash, approved in just 24 hours.
Approved in a day, yeah, yeah. Some money on the way, yeah, yeah. Approved in a day, oh, yeah, you know it's coming. Now, loans, cash at the speed of life, so fast you won't believe it. Now, loans, cash at the speed
loan product powered by National Bank.
Back to school shouldn't meet you unprepared. St. Kitts Credit Union's Back to School loan helps you borrow up to $10,000 with flexible repayment plans, fast approval, supportive terms. Invest in your child's future with confidence, because every child deserves a strong start. Start today at www.skccu.com or call 465-2272. SKCU, invested in their future with you.
Hey, Webmaster here. I stay connected to Freedom with the Freedom SKN app. Simply search for the Freedom app in the Android's Play Store or the Apple's App Store and download it. Enjoy world-class radio at its best, anytime, anywhere. Become a Freedom apper today.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Issues. You're listening to Issues with Coach Adrian. We are discussing the second part of our new series, Global Economy, and we are emphasizing the decoupling of the U.S. from the international agencies or associations or bodies or organizations that were set up to provide, if you want, safety net or welfare support in the area of health, education, farming, in the area of infectious disease, and developing health systems, etc., etc. Remember, the phone line is open. The number to call is 662-1065. Okay, somebody's online. If you're online, please, come on. You're online, please.
Good afternoon, Adrian.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes. There's a question that I've always had in regards to the U.S. and assistance to especially third world countries. There was this saying that even though the U.S. might have been generous in terms of the overall amount, most of that went to Israel. Okay? So it was not as generous as it seemed. Okay? That's one. Secondly, Trump in particular made this assertion that everybody else was taking advantage of the U.S. If that were true, you'd think that the U.S. would not be the quote-unquote hot country that he claims it is, right? So I don't know how can the fact that the U.S. is the most powerful, the richest country in the world, how can you say the two things at the same time? That they're being taken advantage of, especially in terms of trade, and still end up maintaining their leadership in economics. And lastly, what you said there about our approach to fiscal prudence, if you want to call it that, sounds very frightening. How do we go through 2024 with a deficit that big? I would have thought that in this computer age, the Ministry of Finance would be monitoring our incomes and expenditures on certainly a monthly basis, and would have taken corrective action when they see that the deficit ballooning. So I'm somewhat surprised that it has gotten to this sorry state. And I would like to ask you, how do you see, how and when do you see corrective action taking place? Because you get the impression that government is going merrily along, doing the spending it normally does. It's not the calling for belt tightening and those kinds of things. Is it in the budget, the upcoming budget? In which case, is it that we're going to expect a tax increase? Or is it that we're going to have to go borrowing from international institutions, maybe the IMF or whatever? How do you see these things coming into place? And with regards the fact that 41% essentially of our workforce is government, and bearing in mind that elections are coming up very shortly, do you see any retrenchment? I don't see any retrenchment happening. Maybe you do, I don't know. But if it does happen, it will be forced. It's unlikely to happen. So what do we do in a situation to correct this anomaly? Right? Because obviously, if you're spending so much and you have reduced income, things like your debt to GDP ratio going in the wrong direction and things like that, that does not sound like an economy in buoyancy, right? It sounds to me like there's trouble ahead. I don't know if I'm right, but that's what it sounds to me. Like your views on these. Okay.
All right. I have written down everything. I have written down anything. I'm going to try to go through them one by one. Let's look at the Israel financing. I'm not going to say very much on that. I read about that, and I know since and I got to know a little deeper about it since President Obama. All of us loved Obama so much, and in fact, I remember. Okay, somebody's online. I'll write it down. I'll come back. You on air, please.
Hey, good afternoon, Adrian. How are you doing?
Very good, man. Nice to hear you, man.
Man, I feel like I am at the IMF still with you.
Talk to me. I miss you, man.
I miss you too, But
yes.
I have a phone here.
I say maybe you did not love me again.
Well, I don't play them kind of games,
Talk to me.
And then mine dead. So you know it is. Tell your wife, keep an eye on me.
I'm glad to hear you. Talk to me.
Yes. Now, I have been saying a lot of what you just read, and I have not read the IMF thing. I asked you, why are we borrowing so frequently? And the spending, when they were giving the additional free gifts, budget boosting, I said, if you're giving this, why are you doing that? And I've always been recommending a seriously equipped economic council. But we solo politics. Imagine we're going back up to the 100. And tell the people the truth, because you have spoken some truth today that is hard to swallow. Tell the people the truth. You got capital projects you can do because we ain't have the money. Some of the things that they introduce, they might have to curtail them for a while. But I suppose everything is politics.
But you see, they drying up of, because remember, St. Kitts is a high-income country, and as you know, it's not eligible for all these retinues of grants and soft financing. It has to go under.
Since 1990.
When those funds begin to dry up, it means that, like the Jamaican Wholeness says, look, you need to replace the funding locally. He say he don't have the cash flow. Can't do it. So the issue here is, are you giving us, Sylvie, a prescription as to what will be done, what they can do when the funds dry up?
Well, I suppose the SSZ seems to be one of the remedies.
The Social Security? SS, you mean Social Security?
No, man, the new thing for Nevis and St.
But not be, that's a private endeavor.
Mr. Dr. Bradford said.
Endeavor. So you're talking about that?
No, we're talking about the money coming in,
Yeah. No, you're talking about monies coming in.
Yes.
Into government's coffer. Money that they have over over it that they can use it for.
No,
We're not talking about private sector. Remember, I'm Sylvain. In most cases, when we say that the government is now, look, I have past time. I think we're going to have to close the program and move next time. But Sylvain, I'm going to take all the notes I have there from the Economist and from you. All the notes, I have it written down. When I come back on Monday, I'm going to begin by answering those questions.
Some recommendation as to how to curtail somebody's spending.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to begin it from there because, as I said, in the series, wherever we stop, I begin it. So I'm writing it down there. I have it written down there. And when I come next week, I'm going to pick it from there because the issues here and the issues raised by the previous caller, they are very important. I have them down and I'm going to go over them. But one thing that I say, I cannot bring corrective measures. You, Sylvain, cannot bring corrective measures. Listeners cannot bring corrective measures. We appoint, we vote managers over the country.
They're not equipped.
You vote, it's like a business, like TDC and Horsford. You vote managers, and not only that, government is the most privileged business than any other business in the world. You know why? It comes in with a cadre, and it means a cadre of intellectuals and professionals and capacities and skill in different areas. But why is it's not working? Read party politics in the West Indies. Because the people who are there who are skilled, they don't allow them to do their work. They don't allow them to do their work. And furthermore, they bring their own supporters. That is what CLR James says. They bring their supporters in the system who most cases are square pegs. Now we are going to close.
Square peg, they are ill-equipped to handle what they have.
Say the last thing that you want to say because I'm going to close it and then I'm going to come back next week. So you give me a closing remark.
That the Lord give them wisdom and understanding. All right then.
So, folks, I am very sorry that I have taken all the notes of the last two callers, and when I resume next week, we are going to go straight from it, and then we are going to continue because I have also some additional special IMF warnings that they articulated in the IMF report concerning the government's operation. I'm going to begin with that and the issues that the people have raised. You have been listening to Freedom FM 106.5. You have been listening to Coach Adrian on issues. We detail the issue of U.S. decoupling itself from the world, from organizations, from agencies, and the cost, the likely cost of that for dependent countries like the Caribbean. And we have heard the suffering cry from Jamaica. And the same thing is going to happen to the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. We began to look at what is the capacity of St. Kitts and Nevis government to deal with that when the funds dry up. And we saw that the government are in serious fiscal difficulties. Not only that they are overspending by 294 million, that is the deficit, but they are also, what is happening, that their payroll is such that it leaves them just very little, about 16 cents, 18 cents to every dollar. And more than that, they are digging down into their savings and they are whittling their savings. At the same time, they are building debts, and therefore the picture does not look good. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for participation. And until next Monday, hope to see you. Same time, same place. Bye-bye.